Marcus Knight joins us, and Marcus, assistant coach and recruiting coordinator up in the state of Michigan, and probably a little bit cooler up there. Marcus, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Great to be here.
We're glad to have you. I know you're here for your family with July the 4th holiday, and we're excited about having you back in your hometown, Sylacauga, Alabama. Back in the 90s, you played on some pretty good football team there with B.B. Comer.
Yeah, a lot of tradition. I followed a little bit of my brother, Damian Jeffries, who had a successful season with the guys that he played with, and we followed in their suit with some very good teams after that.
Now, you were actually on the team that went to Cordova that lost in the championship game?
Yep.
And but that kind of Coach Overton got in the mix a little bit, and actually was instrumental in getting that championship thing changed a little bit.
Yeah, you know, I hear that was the reason why they do that. Now they play it in the neutral site. It was a tough loss for our team. We worked so hard to get to that game, and we always felt like we had the better team, but we weren't the better team on that Friday.
It was a yucky night, wasn't it?
Oh, it was horrible.
Talk about some of the games that you remember. I know there was a lot of them, and Marcus was a standout receiver at B.B. Comer. There's a lot of great players, and you don't see that very often in the longevity of a high school, that you have that many good to great players playing continuous years.
Yeah, that's true. We had some great players. I couldn't be where I am without my quarterback, who needs to be recognized, Telly Embry, who was from the Walco area. And then we had a lot of guys that were from my home, or from my community of Odina, Macmillan Quarter. And then that all combined with some of the county guys like Kevin Barnett, Chip Abbott. And it was just a great chemistry. We had the leadership, we had the talent. We felt like we couldn't be beat. We thought it was our year. But circumstances just meant for us not to win that game, and that's okay. We grew a lot out of that game, and if we could go back, we know we would probably go about our game plan a little differently.
What did you learn most from Coach Overton and his staff?
They loved us. You know, Coach Overton, Coach Cobb, Coach Wyatt, they really, truly, genuinely cared about what we did, how we grew up, and the young men we were proved to be. And a lot of the time, while we made it as far as we did, we wanted to win for them. We wanted Coach Overton to get his first championship, and we thought every one of those young men or those guys who were our mentors deserved that victory. That's why it hurt as bad as it actually did.
Mm-hmm. Marcus Knight, our guest this morning, and Marcus, of course, is now you're at is it Northeastern?
Northern Michigan.
Northern Michigan State University, is that right?
It's not state, just
okay.
Northern Michigan University.
And
yes,
but you're a recruiting coordinator there, right?
Yes, sir.
And that brings me to the point. It was a madhouse during that era with college recruiters coming on campus, and you guys getting the phone calls. And what kind of pressure do you feel during that time?
It's a little bit of pressure, a little bit of excitement. It's more exciting than anything. It gets a little bit nerve-wracking because the phone is ringing off the hook. You don't know, you're hearing the same sales pitch, and you don't know who's genuine. When you go off to college, all you're looking for is home. You're looking for some people that you can connect with, that will show you exactly or give you the exact same feeling you had or I had here in Sylacauga. And sometimes that's not a very easy thing to find. So the excitement was there. Recruiting is an awesome experience. And then when you find your home, as long as you feel comfortable with your decision, you can have a great career.
You had big pushes from the two in-state universities for you to play and get your education from their institutions.
That's true. And Alabama was my choice. I really, really wanted to go there, following my brother's steps. But, you know, it wasn't meant to be. Things happened, and then I went on a trip to the University of Michigan. I felt at home, and it was some of the best 4 years of my life.
When you were coming down to the wire, and it was, you know, had to make a decision, and you know, you're getting, you know, your guys, your friends and stuff saying, hey, we want you to go here, we want you to go there. What about your family? How did they fit into this recruiting plan?
Well, you know, I have great parents. My father, rest his soul, is no longer living, but they let me make my own decision. They knew at the age of 18 that it was time for me to grow up and be a man. So they gave me my space. They wanted to be close where they could come see me play every day. But you know, when it came down to it, they said, Marcus, you can make your decision. And I prayed about it with a good friend of mine, Terrence Glenn. And you know, I had both scholarships sitting there in front of me. And you know, something told me that the University of Michigan was where my future should hold.
When you get on the campus at Michigan and it hits you, wow, this is big time football,
Yeah.
you know, and one of the premier schools in the country, and you excelled at Michigan. I know you were excited about that.
I was, and it wasn't about Michigan, it was about Alabama, it was about Odina, it was about Sylacauga. I knew that I had the talent to go out there and compete with anybody out there. I had the determination, the heart, and I had a lot to prove, not only to the people from my hometown of why I left, but the people that I was beginning to meet, and to let them know how much talent they're missing by not recruiting the state of Alabama on a regular basis.
Talk about some of the games that you remember playing at University of Michigan, and some of those, maybe a bowl game, but there are some highlights that I'm sure you remember.
Yeah, the first thing is I got to play my home state in my freshman and my senior year, and I think that was a privilege. We lost to Alabama in 1996 in the Outback Bowl, but we had a chance to redeem ourselves in the 2000 Orange Bowl, which was my last game, and we ended up winning that in one of the best games that has ever been played in college football. But if I was to go back and look at my career, the game that really stands out to me was 1998 versus Penn State. You see it on the Brady Six. You talk about that comeback game. I was fortunate enough to make that last catch to put us ahead. It was a hard-fought game, and with all of the recognition that Penn State had and where we were going with our momentum, it turned out to be a great game, and to have an opportunity to play with the young men I played with, including Tom Brady, that's something I won't ever forget for the rest of my life.
You know, Tom Brady is a name that everybody recognizes, you know, and you as a receiver, and when you came and played Alabama in the Outback Bowl, I'm sure there were some guys that you recognize on the University of Alabama's team that maybe you recruited that same era of time.
Yeah, you know, the most recognition that I can give to the Alabama players at that time was the players that played with my brother, Damian. Mm-hmm. They still had some guys that he were brothers with through this game of football at the University of Alabama, and they know I was little DJ's brother out there. You know, that's how it was. I didn't even have a name. I was DJ's little brother. So it was great to see that speed. I think SEC football is great. I still watch it today. But because of my history and where I went to school, it's go blue, then roll tide, instead of roll tide and then go blue.
You mentioned several times Damian Jeffries being your brother, and Damian was a prolific player himself in high school and college, and went on to play in the NFL. Now, you played in the NFL a little bit too, didn't you?
That's true. Yeah, I was undrafted free agent to the Oakland Raiders, where I stuck around for 2 years, and then went down and played with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a half a season. Mm-hmm. After that, I went and played arena football for 3 more years. So I have 6 years professionally up under my belt, and it taught me a lot. It was a blessing, and it's something I wouldn't trade for anything.
Marcus Knight, our guest this morning, outstanding young man, and now a coach in his own right and recruiting coordinator in the state of Michigan, and some of the differences. Now, I'm sure that there was probably a few major differences from the high school level to the college level of playing football.
Yeah, it's different. The speed is different. Instead of having a young man that's 6'2", 180 that runs a 4.5 running at you now, he's 6'4", and he's about 250. And it continues to go up as you go to the professional level. You have guys who have outstanding ability out of the box as far as height and weight. And you got to find ways in which to protect yourself at the same time, not lose the effectiveness of being a quality receiver. And you learn real quickly at the college level that the speed of the game is much faster than at the high school level.
And from the college level to professional level?
Oh, it's definitely, and it jumps up triple time there. And it's really about knowing the ins and outs of the game, knowing the ins and outs of the techniques, and really how I explain it to my young men that I have an opportunity to coach today is the separation becomes less and less. In high school, you might be down the field 10 yards just because you're faster than the next guy. In college, it now turns into about 3 yards. And then in the professionals, it's me coming out my break and turning my hips before he does. And if you can understand that separation and be able to make the catches and the plays in smaller spaces, then you become more and more successful as time goes along.
When you were younger, even before high school days, do you ever dream that you could advance as far as you advanced from the college to the NFL level?
Well, you know, I never doubted myself. I come from a very athletic family, and I was just blessed enough to have the opportunity to go on the stage. You can go down the list of my brothers and sisters, and all of them have a special talent.
Was it 9?
I have 9 brothers
Okay.
and 5 sisters.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a blessing. They all love me the same. I've been an uncle ever since I was 14, and they treat me that way. I'm the little brother, and all of my nephews, who are pretty much my same age or older, have always treated me with that respect. But to be able to go out there and do it. Baseball was my first love. I really wanted to go play baseball. I didn't want to play football. I love baseball, and that will always be my first love, but college football was going to pay the bills, and really I knew I could be and excel at it, and that's where my future held.
Talk about your education. I know that was very important to you as well.
Oh, absolutely. At the University of Michigan, I went in and graduated and got my bachelor's, and played professionally for a while. Had to go back because I was a semester short. So I went back in 2008 when I retired from football. Got my degree, my bachelor's, and then went on to get my master's at Valparaiso University in sports administration. And from that point forward, when I was getting my master's and where I am now, I've been coaching.
Yeah. Now, how long have you been where you are now?
I am going into my 4th season.
Okay.
Yeah.
And recruiting coordinator, and what's the other?
Wide receivers coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a natural.
Yeah. It's been a blessing.
Has recruiting changed, say, from now till you were being recruited? Is it basically the same?
You know, it's different levels of it. I'm at the Division II level right now. Division I AA and Division I are above me, and I'm sure it's a little bit different there as far as the grind and the competitiveness of getting a top recruit. But yeah, it's different. You know, kids these days are social media friendly. And they'll communicate with you through social media before they'll phone call with you. And sometimes that can become difficult because it's nothing like a natural phone call, letting somebody hear your voice. But besides that, kids are kids. You know, you have to make sure that you get the right type of kid for your program. If you don't find the right type of kid, you'll find that you'll get him, but in 2 years he's going to be gone because he shouldn't have been there in the first place.
The school that you're at now, the university you're at now, talk about that school, talk about the division and conference and that kind of thing that you're playing in.
I coach now for Northern Michigan University, which is located in the UP of Michigan, in a little town called Marquette, Michigan. We compete in the GLIAC.
That's basketball country, Marquette.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's not the Marquette that you think of in Milwaukee.
Okay.
It's actually the town of Marquette.
Okay. All right.
But we compete in the GLIAC conference, which is college teams made up in the state of Michigan and Ohio. Very competitive D2 league. We go out and we find national talent. If you look at the NFL rosters these days, you'll see a lot of kids that are coming from the division in which we coach, and it's one of the recruiting points that we have, bringing kids to where we are. The only thing about where we stay is it's very cold. But we play in the largest wood structure dome in America, and I'm still looking for that Alabama talent to come up there and be a part of this journey with me. So if any young man is really wants to have a college career, then hopefully they will reach out and we'll have an opportunity to really see if the Division II conference, the GLIAC conference in Northern Michigan University is for you.
So you're going back to Michigan today, and I'm assuming that you don't get a whole lot of time off with your coaching situation and the schedule you have there.
No, and that's the one thing about coaching that a lot of people get deterred from. It is a time commitment that you wouldn't believe. Just making sure that you're known, making sure you're on top of your duties, and making sure you're being the best coach that you possibly can be. So the hours are ridiculous, but the benefit and what you get out of it is well worth it.
Two quick things. Marcus Knight will be gone, and we appreciate Marcus being here this morning. Quick story during your recruitment for a university that just stands out in your mind.
Yeah, that stands out.
There were a lot of marquee coaches
right.
that came to Sylacauga, Alabama, to try to woo you to their university.
Yeah, but and then you eventually had Coach Carr and a lot of coaches that came to the backwoods of Odina, acting like they never lost in the woods before, but. For them to show that effort, it was great. It was great to meet them. But I knew that this was all about me in the next 4 years of my life. So to sit back and try to think on the coaches that were able to come through my door didn't really matter. It was more about me being able to find a home. And my connection was with Coach Carr. And that's the man that I could talk about to this day, because he was instrumental in me being the type of man you're seeing right now. Me being the coach that I am at the college level, and the things that I've done in my career. He helped me to guide that, along with my position coach, Eric Campbell, and I can say a lot of names, but it's not about that. The University of Michigan gave me an opportunity to grow. I was away from home. I couldn't run back to mama and dad and the family. I had to do everything on my own, and it did wonders for me.
Marcus Knight, our guest this morning. Marcus, always a pleasure, and continued success in your career, and we maybe look to see bigger and even brighter things down the line.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. And before I go, I'd like to say thank you to the 96 Comer team, Anthony Green, Bo Green, Terry Swain, Kelvin Dates. It's a lot of young men that
you ever get to talk to those guys any?
I keep up with them and try to see how they're doing. We're all from the same community. We don't get to see each other as much as we did when we were in school, but yes, they're a part of my family, extended family, and I always try to make sure that I reach out when I can.
All right, Marcus, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Marcus Knight, our guest here on Daybreak this morning. Final thought and look at your weather forecast right after this.